Hello, and welcome to Temporal Horizons Summer Podcast. Please enjoy the show. Welcome to Temporal Horizons Productions Summer Podcasts, a talk show where we dive into the captivating world of theatre and multimedia productions. Whether you're an avid theatre enthusiast or someone looking to explore the cutting-edge world of art, technology, and creative productions, this podcast is your backstage pass to learn more about this industry and the people behind it. I am your host, Harry Fitzpatrick, and today we have an exciting episode lined up as we shine the spotlight on the talented Italian-Venezuelan actress, producer, writer, and model, Jolene Legrand. Welcome, Jolene.
Hi, nice. Thank you for having me here. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again. And, well, first off, I'd like to ask, how are you today?
I'm fine, a little bit tired, but I'm starting to get used to it again. Hustling.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Would you like to tell listeners a little bit about yourself, like your background, where you grew up?
Sure, so I was born in Venezuela, but because I'm trying not to get into deep subjects, but because of political reasons, I had to move. My parents decided to move. So I grew up in Italy, and when I was 15, I took my first acting class, and I remember having this very big emotion, and I wouldn't know how to describe it. It's like a lightning, something big. And I was like, yes, that's what I want to do with my life. That's what I'm supposed to do with my life. And that's how I started my journey. From not being able to understand what I wanted to do with my life, what career I wanted to have, to just changing my whole life completely for acting and to act. So I just finished high school and I moved here, even if my first goal was to move to the States. But after seeing the prices, I was like, maybe London is fine.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's like you're doing something and suddenly you get the chance to go on stage and it's a bit like that Iggy Pop song, you get that lust for life where you just feel that energy and just a sense of belonging. Like I think it's that old cliche of you get bit by the acting bug.
Yeah, I mean, every time I'm in front of the camera, I kind of feel like home, even if this year has been rough with me in sense of acting jobs. I just filmed my new showreel scenes, and just by being in front of the camera was like, yeah, when you love it, you love it. You can't stop loving it.
Hmm. Yeah. And obviously, building from what you were saying as well, like from where you grew up in Italy to making a big jump to move to another country and just trying to establish yourself there. So you've studied in the City Academy in London, and what was that like? Was it quite e difficult to get onto the course the first time, or was it quite easy?
It was difficult to speak and to understand. I studied to have a B2. I had a B2, but that wasn't enough. And even now, sometimes I just forget words because, of course, because of COVID, I had to go back to Italy. So it's like I've been here just 2 years instead of 3. But yeah, no, I loved it. I loved how the teacher was teaching us, the basic stuff. Just, the terminology like the donut, eyeline, markers. I loved all that stuff. And yeah, It just made me more passionate. But the language was quite a barrier, and it still is. But you know, you gotta work through it.
Mm. Yeah, it was the same for me because I was born here in the UK and then my family moved to Valencia, Spain in 2004 when I was 9. And when I started acting was over there. And obviously, like the language, first time it's trying to understand it and then you're trying to understand the subtext of a scene. And then you have that, you're trying to make the like make sense. Even if you've been there a while, it's like you still, as you're saying, forget certain words or you don't know how to communicate that properly. Would you say that when you did it, you felt you understood more than you could say, or when you first got a script and you were trying to learn it and understand it, would you translate it first into like Italian in order to get it, or would you?
I would say I still do. I understand more than I can say because of course my vocabulary is not as rich as I would like it to be. That's why I'm trying to read more. But yeah, I've never really had to translate it. To be fair, I do think in English, but at the same time, my process of thoughts is not the same as someone who is like, for who English is their mother tongue, because of course there's some words that are missing. Even when I'm writing, I do think in Italian because I sound to myself, I sound more poetic in Italian. And so I always try to go to Google and Google the word in Italian that I want, and then I look to all the synonym, or it's even the pronunciation is difficult for me because some words I haven't learned by hearing them, but just reading them. And it's kind of like I don't have the fear anymore of like, just saying something wrong and feel stupid because other people will be like, oh, where are you from? Because I said that thing wrong and because of my accent. I just say it, but at the same time, I want to work more on that side of what is acting at the end of the day, which is speaking.
Mm. Yeah, because it's like when you're younger and you don't have a lot of like confidence or self-esteem, you sort of worry about if you're getting it wrong and just people sort of looking at you in a certain way. But it's, as you were saying now, it's just being more relaxed and knowing I'm not going to be perfect the first time. I might make a mistake. I might mispronounce a word or just get something wrong because the context of it sounds so much different once you translate something into different language. Like even, I mean, for one thing that's quite I still tend to do is because I've grown up obviously in Spain, different side of driving on different side of the road. I still accidentally go to the driver's seat because I'm used to that being the passenger seat. So
That's one for me as well. But it happens when I go to Italy. Sometimes my brain switch and I'm like, now when I'm gonna go back to England, I'm going to think like as an European. But that's what I love about this industry. I think most of the confidence and courage that I have now, I gained, I learned to have thanks to acting, thanks to the camera, thanks to my teachers, to the people I have with me and I have with me. And like an example, a stupid example, is just once I went to this big workshop exchanging students and we were acting, and I didn't like hugging. I hated hugging. Like I couldn't get a hug. And we had this exercise, which is acting. Acting is basically being comfortable with yourself, which I love. And we had this exercise where we had to hug each other. and this guy hugged me, and he was like, "You're not comfortable. Why is that? Why do you react like this to a hug?" And that's how I learned to like appreciate hugs and like hug normally. Like I'm a very huggy person, if you say that. I love hugs right now, but yeah, acting helps you finding yourself and finding that confidence that you need, even if it's such a difficult and like competitive industry.
Mm. And speaking of classes, like with the first like classes you do, like you still go to them today, like would you say that is one of the most vital things, even if you have 5 to 10 years experience, would you say that it is still good to keep going to workshops and classes in order to stay up to date with acting in front of camera or live performance?
Absolutely. I'm gonna quote Wendy Allen Wright, which is a talent manager from LA. When I just moved here, I took one of her courses in the business of acting. And what she says is that acting is like a sport. An athlete never stop training because, of course, he needs his whole body to be ready. And that's an actor's job. Keep being ready. And the industry is changing so quickly, especially now with all these things. And you need to be ready. You need to be ready to change as well, to be marketable.
Because I think that's the thing that somebody said to me. The only thing that you got to sell in life is yourself, and that's always the challenge of trying. You got to try and keep your pulse on things, figuring out what's happening in the zeitgeist, technological advances with film, through obviously the rise of stuff like deep fakes and ways in which they are able to replicate an actor's voice of how they sounded maybe 10 to 40 years ago. I mean, one famous example more recently was like James Earl Jones has sold the rights to his voice to
Oh, wow.
Disney so that they can you put it through a computer software to make him sound like Darth Vader.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like with AI, we're going on a so vast topic.
Mm,
Lots of people say they're gonna take everyone's job. At the end of the day, yeah, we don't know. We just need to live with it because it's not gonna stop. It's too late for it to stop.
mm,
So it's about, I feel, legal terms, why legally wise. It's just about, you know, reading your contracts and having like with equity and everything, having someone who can support actors through
mm.
these challenges, someone who can advocate for actors and what is gonna become, what the industry is gonna become in, I don't know, 10 years because of AI.
Yeah. And even as you're saying, just having like guilds or equities there to protect actors for screen and stage, because you don't want to have that risk of exploitation, or as you were saying, like something takes away a skill set that you're good at, which is performing, because I think, oh, we can just rely on this as it doesn't get sick, doesn't get tired, doesn't complain. But then at the same time, you are going to lose something which is vital, which is basically like the human soul.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing with a lot of algorithms, you can't just put, I think, humans in a box too much, because as you see with writing, like reflecting on the person, like one day we could be most charitable, nicest individual around. Following day we could just be a complete SOB.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's crazy.
mm.
But I don't know if you've have you tried using AI to write scripts?
I've always tried to avoid it because I think it could just be a form of cheating, and
Yeah.
it's also it's taking data from other people, which
Yeah.
I wouldn't feel comfortable with doing. Like I can understand it's helpful if you want to use it for a first draft, and then but at the same time, I feel like you don't. It's a very it's a very deep, murky water that I would say it's always good to research more into in order to get a better understanding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Otherwise, you could
I've
say
tried,
something.
yeah, I've tried, but like it's not that big of a thing. Like the script are not good. I just tried to see what was, this urgency. But they're not that good. But also other actors and other creatives have told me they're not good now, but they might be in a couple of years. Same as deep fake. So it's the question is like, is it worth it? Changing, now this is gonna sound bad, but like human product, let's say human creativity to AI, that at the end AI is just like you said, it's just a lot of other people's work put together.
Yeah, I think I think that's the thing. It's waiting to see what's going to happen in like the next 5 years. I mean, you look at the way technology's gone in the last 20. I mean,
Mm. But at the same time, if you think about it, all the art that human create is just I'm gonna quote a Fight Club, a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. I mean, okay, AI is not a human, and like they can reach so much information in 1 second, but at the same time, a human being is basically all the information he or she received until like now. So it's kind of similar but different. I don't know if you get what I mean. Like
hmm,
you and me are our own persons, but our experiences and others people idea have forged us. Perhaps what AI can't do is have experiences, but like you said, we never know with how much technology has evolved what AI could do in the future.
hmm, yeah, I think that's the thing, as you were saying, like experience. Like with writing, you could take something that informs your experiences, your views of the world, and wanting to get just this bigger understanding of what is going on out there that you could then talk to someone else, they can inform you, someone else could tell you something, and you don't know what to believe is right and wrong. And it also like depends on your own personal biases. Like, would you believe somebody about something because, oh, you don't like that person? I can easily believe they're horrible individuals, or you get so much evidence that this person is not not a great person to be around. In fact, they should be sorry,
Nice.
like in fact they should be sort of held accountable. But then you'd be like, oh, but they were so great doing this and that. I can't really believe they are that. So
Mm.
that's I think the thing about humans is just either what we experience. I mean, we might have very similar circumstances going through, but we come out of them or view them going into them in a different way.
Yeah. While AI gets all the points of view, which could make them better, honestly. But it's not something you can stop. It's not something that you could say, okay, we don't like how this is going. Let's stop it, because there's always gonna be people who want to explore. And, you know, the human race is known to want to play God. So
Mm. I mean, there's also like the media storytelling depictions of when humans do play gods, where it can either go
yeah,
right or wrong, like the most famous Frankenstein or Jurassic Park in more recent years, or just even action thrillers like The Terminator.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like you compare how we view the future to how people 40 years ago viewed it, like Back to the Future, how they viewed flying cars back then, to now you have electric cars, but even then there's not a lot of charging stations.
Yeah, I guess we need to just accept that AI is gonna be a big part of our world, not only the creative people world, but everyone's. Like, it's coming for everyone if we want to see it in a bad way.
Yeah, and as long as there are real laws or something there that does protect people, so that way it's able to be there, but not risk somebody's livelihoods. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we always have something to overcome as
Mm.
a whole. So, yeah, bring it on. Bring AI.
Is nice. And yeah, so going back just to like your own personal career in that, what made you sort of very interested in not just the acting side, but the behind the scenes, behind the camera, with producing and writing?
So, funny story, I used to write when, after I had my kidney transplant, I kind of dissociated a bit by starting role playing on Facebook with other people, being someone else and writing stories as a book, kind of. And that's how I started writing. That's how I got my style, I would say. I just started writing. People will tell me, look, you're doing this and this wrong. So I started reading a lot of classics, and that has influenced my style and my writing a bit. So yeah, I always wanted to create something on my own, and that's why I started writing Forever Yours. And while I was writing it, and I had the luck, and I'm very grateful to know Annie Knotts, but know her.
Mm,
I had the luck to have her tell me, look, produce it yourself because you're gonna learn so much. And it's true, I learned so much, and I just fall in love always like more with this industry. It's hard. Being a producer is not easy. Like, the funny thing about this industry is that you need to love it. Like, I underline, you need to love the industry, because if you're doing it from a money point of view, that's not the job for you. Because being a producer is basically being an employee, but at the same time, I don't know too much about it, so I don't want to dig into something I'm still ignorant and I want to learn more about. But yeah, while I was writing it and while Annie was helping me, I just started trying to teach myself things like lighting, color grading, production design. I love production design, art directing, which I know you know and I'm sure you love. And so yeah, I just started learning little bits, and yeah, I can't do anything else. Like, as my main things, I can't do anything else.
mm,
So I started just to write something for myself, and then I realized, okay, I can do this as well. I can be an actress and producer, but with the production side, I don't know if I will produce something in which I'm not in. That's the only
Yeah.
thing.
You see, like now, a lot of actors do produce their own work, like Margot Robbie with productions like I, Tonya, and even people like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon with their projects like Good Will Hunting and more recently The Last Duel,
Hmm.
because it's sort of like you want, as you were saying with a project, and even Taika Waititi, the filmmaker, you want to, even when there's no work around, you want to find a way of challenging yourself or even just creating work in whatever way you can, because it's that sort of drive, that love for the profession, that you just need to keep doing it. And obviously there are a lot of struggles like I've had with my own productions, like a lot of tribulations and baptisms of fire, especially if you're going to some experience with the production side, as you were saying, because you just don't know why you're doing it. It's sort of like you need to do it, but it's, yeah, you just can't think too much about, oh, you want, even if other members of your family don't understand, like you do it because you love it, not because you think, oh, I'm gonna get millions, I'm gonna earn earn the next box office money of James Cameron levels.
I mean,
Because
you look forward to it, but your main object is just to create and be someone else or be in the moment. And
mm,
that's why in this industry as well, you can't take anything personal. You need to learn to not take anything personal. And as you said before, you can't be perfect. I heard a lot of be professionals say perfect doesn't exist. So unfortunately, that impostor voice will always be there. That anxiety is always there, but you need to learn how to live with it and accept that because you have anxiety, it doesn't take anything from your talent or who you are.
mm. And that's the thing as well. Like you just find a way of just being able to not beat it down, but just accept it's there. Just but be like remembering what else you've managed to accomplish and knowing there's a reason you're there, because the casting director liked you. There was something about the script that you felt would be interesting to explore, as well as just or dealing with a story that brings to highlight for audiences a topic that is worth discussing or talking about, and doing it in a way where it's like not lecturing them but entertaining them, keeping them engaged, making them go outside afterwards if they're heading home, or grabbing something to eat or having a drink and just chatting about what they saw and just talking about the subject, even if they're not always going to agree with it, but it's always worth discussing and talking, like here, rather than filtering through just on something like Twitter where it's like, my opinion's right, I know I'm right, everyone else is wrong, this is it. And then it obviously just, well, less said about Twitter, the better.
Yeah, let's say that by being an actor, you need to learn how not to judge your characters. And you always need to understand their point of view, which helps a lot in life as well.
Mm, def- definitely. And even going back to, as we were saying, just like the love and passion for it, rather
Yeah.
than just thinking you're going to get glory or money out of it. It's a way of doing that. And even if you've got the latter where you've not got that passion there, an audience will pick up on it and sense it. I mean, compare somebody acting in the one film they started, and then suddenly 2 films later, you can tell they're just there for a paycheck and they're phoning it in.
Yeah, that's sad. That's very sad.
Yeah. And even I think my favorite, which obviously for me with live performance, is seeing a way of how actors keep things alive and fresh after hundreds of thousands of performances. They still are able to keep that freshness and bite there.
Yeah, I would say even like with acting, the thing is that there's up and downs. There's weeks where you're super busy and like you're doing stuff, and then there's weeks or even months where it's dead. And yeah, you have to have a tough skin, but that doesn't take off from like feeling your feelings, if you know what I mean. You
Mm,
just need, yeah, as I said, don't take it personally. And when you're there, like you said, still being fresh, still being happy about it because you're happy when you're filming.
yeah. And even then, like just finding a way, because obviously when you're filming, you have those moments of long gaps in between of when they're setting up for the next shot. So you got to keep, or they film out of sequence of chronological order. So you got to keep that sense of being alive to the moment, but also just remembering the back of your mind. They wouldn't be at this stage yet. I don't know what the context would be, or maybe I do know the context. And it's not just with acting, but making sure there's good communication with the directors and the writers and the producers just to make sure that everything is making sense. As I've done acting on productions when there's been no clear communication it and for somebody like me, I know that I need communication with directors in order to keep basically a sense of what's happening.
No, I understand that it's true. And the need to understand that everyone is essential. It's not just the actor or director, but everyone. The focus puller, the first ID, the production assistant, everyone.
Mm,
I love the fact that everyone is together to like bring to life something, like creating something. I just love that.
mm. And going back to when we was discussing writing, you mentioned with Forever Yours. Would you like to tell listeners about the idea and what what it is they can look forward to with it?
Sure. So with Forever Yours, it just started as something that I wanted to do for myself. But then it slowly became something bigger, something for women in these women, sorry, for women in the industry. So yes, I always loved noir movies, and when I used to live in Italy, I had this guy who once called me a femme fatale, and I didn't really know about femmes fatale at the time, so I just googled it and I loved it, and I kind of made it my brand, like even the name Jolene, if you know the song. So I
Mm,
kind of went with it, and yeah, my love for noirs and my need and want to create something together forged the script. But as I said, I had the help of the amazing Annie who helped me a lot with grammar issues and with like with the actions, etc. And Forever Years is just a noir, but turned the other way around. The man is not the lead anymore. There's not this sexism, but that there was in the time. But the woman is the lead, and there's also some inside of the LGBTQ community, but I mean, I won't say much.
mm,
But we had a budget. The first budget that we put together was a budget of 6K,
mm,
7 if anything happened. But we didn't reach it, which is another side of being a producer. Like you need to work with what you have. So we reached the decision through another friend of mine who is an amazing producer, Jasmine Alice. She told me I could do it without problems with 3K, but I needed, because it's a noir, my character had mostly voiceovers, like in noirs.
Mm.
But because I'm also doing it to promote myself as an actress, she suggested I put more acting, like dialogue, for my character as well. So from being the whole story in a short, it's gonna be the beginning of the story. And then if the beginning of the story is liked, if people want to see more, we'll keep telling the story in different sections.
Mm.
So
Nice.
yeah, with women in the industry, it's not just the character being the lead and not being, and not only the object of desire of, like, the sexy woman, the dangerous woman. It was also like most of the crew I wanted to have for this film is made of women. So yeah, it's just trying to make this change, trying to create something for me, but at the same time trying to create this change in the industry and tell everyone, like, women are as capable as men
Mm.
producing a short and making something beautiful.
Mm. And even obviously with the genre of noir, from the time it was most prolific and made during the mid 20th century, it was a very male dominated industry. And when you're looking at different cultures, especially from like Italians through their noir films, through their horror, like they would portray women as either the victim, object of desire, or like a Venus flytrap, a predator at the same time. Like if you've seen films like Black Sunday or the various gelato killer films by the
I
likes of.
one I love is Too Late for Tears.
Hmm.
I don't know if you watched it. It's very nice.
I haven't seen that one, but could you tell me and listeners about it?
I mean, it's like you said, the woman is the Venus trap and the man falls for her. And it ends with the woman um, suffering the repercussion of her action and the man being the hero, which is basically what every noir is, kind of. Now with Forever Yours, I'm trying to rewrite it, and hopefully by the end of the year or next year, we'll be
Hmm.
able to produce it and people will like it, hopefully.
Yeah.
It's not dead.
Hmm. Well, sometimes I think, and I think it is very true that when you have a lot of restrictions or opposition, it does help flourish a lot of creativity. And maybe with what's happened here, you can use that to put into the work, just making it potentially just feel very rough to the point, just the point, getting the ideas you want to across on screen. And with when you look at a way of like subverting sort of the expectations of the genre, as you were saying about where the man is the lead and the woman is more of like the villain or the object of desire, or sometimes both, such as with the noir films of Orson Welles and Rita Hayworth.
Yeah, I love her.
Mm. But you just, so as you were saying, you want to have just to show that way of staying within sort of the conventions of the genre, but not being restricted by it at the same time.
Yes. So I feel like now that I'm rewriting it, I'm just gonna have to do way more research so that even if there's no voiceovers, it's gonna feel like a noir. So
Mm.
it's a lot of, because I'm not Because I don't really have much information about the time. I want everything to be good in terms of like period wise and costumes and dialogues. But at the same time, I don't have that much information. And without the voiceovers, the neo noir loses a bit. So yeah, it's all about doing the research, the proper research, rewriting it, and stick to the budget.
Yeah. And even, and it's the thing as well, like when you are thinking about the budget, there's always a way of either you can cost cut, which you obviously run the major risk of perhaps losing something of quality, as there are many examples of when cost cutting can go wrong, but then there are others when, if it's done correctly, if the people doing it know they can get around it, or know they can get something that would cost a lot but for free or for very cheaply, then you can find a way of getting to that goal, even if it means you're going on a different path from what you are heading on. Which I think for many who are listening that are starting out, either out of like drama schools or universities, or even going into it without all that experience of like training or studying, just know that you have a lot of room to fail. You have a lot of ways of just talking to people who are a bit older or being understanding, but there's always, as I always like to use the line from Jurassic Park, life finds a way.
Yeah, it
And,
is. It is
yeah.
true.
And also say, do you have any of your own advice that you'd say to yourself like 10 years ago, or to somebody who could be starting out in a similar position, like moving to another country or wanting to learn about it?
Yeah, just be kind to yourself because you're doing a lot of work, even if you don't think you are. Talking about the imposter syndrome as before. And yeah, really just be kind to yourself and be patient. Don't take anything personal. And I've been lucky enough to find so many people that have offered me their advice and their help. And that's what I love the most about this industry. There's a lot of people willing to help, willing to understand your struggles and walk with you through the way. So yeah, just be patient and kind to yourself because you're doing everything that you can, and don't aim to perfect because perfect doesn't exist. And I've heard it so many times now in all the masterclass that I've taken from people who are working more than I am. So if they tell me that, it means something. So yeah, be gentle with yourself, be patient, and don't aim to be perfect. Nobody is perfect.
Lovely words. So this was today's podcast episode, talking to the wonderful Jolene Legrand about her career, writing, and various discussions within the industry today. You can watch the edited cuts online for free, or if you subscribe to our new Patreon, you can listen to the exclusive extended cut where we talk about a little bit extra, such as with different productions, managing relations, and loads more. And also, you can find the link to our social media platforms below, and any links to Jolene's work you can find also through the links below in our bios. We thank you for listening to today's episode, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having me.